Hey guys, welcome back to Living with Flores. If you are new here, welcome. If you are not, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of not shopping wood by yourself. I'm just kidding.
Don't embarrass me. It was an accident.
Today we are going to talk about why livestock guardian dogs are so important. But on a side note, yes, Ricky cut his foot while chopping wood while I was not home. It's kind of scary, but it wasn't that bad. So he's... Oh, you're fine. You're walking. So yes, here's one of our livestock guardian dogs. Her name is Ella. And they are extremely important here on the homestead. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah.
So the role of our livestock guardian is obviously to protect our livestock, mainly our sheep and goats. Our cows, they're pretty big, so they're really nothing is really a threat to them. But here we have a lot of coyotes. We actually have about 400 acres back there that is not ours, but it is what is it?
It's a floodplain, so nobody's done anything on it.
Yeah, so
it's just hunting land.
Yes, it's hunting land. So there's a lot of coyotes and wild hogs that live over there. There are a house or two in between us and that property. So I think they might have more of an issue. The coyotes will have to pass their land to get to ours. But that's what our guardian dogs are for. They're for protecting our vulnerable animals against coyotes. This one right here, we got her as she was about 5 months old when we got her. And she was raised with animals. She was mainly goats. And she lived in 100 acres, I think it was. And she was pretty much trained by her parents to protect animals. The only thing is she is pure Great Pyrenees. And if you haven't heard, Great Pyrenees are notorious for leaving your fence, climbing your fence, digging holes, and getting out. So that's something that we have had to deal with her. We've been trying to train her by putting her in the sheep pen with the sheep and just staying there. However, our ram is very aggressive towards her. She does try to stick up for herself, but she is still a little bit smaller than our ram. So we've noticed that he's becoming more territorial, especially because we think our lady sheep is pregnant. She's still pregnant, if you guys have been following along with that. But we think he's getting way more territorial now because she's about to pop. And he's been like ramming her, so we've taken her out of that situation because she didn't like that at all. I wouldn't like it either. But so that's one thing. I think she has started to learn a little bit more not to leave the fence since she has been in the electric fence paddock, right? She's doing a lot better. But we have another guardian dog. Her name is Penny. They're playing right now. But we got her when she was about 10 months old? Yeah, she was about 10 months old, and we got her when we got our sheep. And she is Great Pyrenees and Anatolian, we believe. And she has been amazing. She's actually been teaching our little one, Ella, how to behave and how to guard animals. She's taken on like a mother role. They have different barks. The longer you're with them, the more that you'll
notice the bark when something's serious versus, okay, I'm letting predators know that we're here. And then there's other barks where it's like, okay, something's on the property, we're taking off on it. At nighttime, depending on how they sound, I'll actually get up and go figure out what's going on with them. But other times I know they're just letting other animals, coyotes, maybe even other dogs know, hey, you're not welcome here. But yeah, and then we have another one that he was not bred to be I say he wasn't bred. We didn't buy him to be a guardian dog, but he is shaped up to be a really good one. And he's a cane Corso mix, and he is definitely the alpha of all the dogs. I mean, all the animals, none of them mess with him. He asserts dominance when he needs to. He eats first. He knows that he's the main one, and all the rest of them, they pretty much follow suit. And with the ram, that's probably the only one that the ram will not mess with. And no, yeah, they'll mess with Penny a little bit.
Yeah.
But the ram will not mess with Rocco. He's a male, so as soon as he checks him and puts him in his place, he tends to leave him alone.
So with getting livestock guardian dogs, I say we would really believe that it's kind of one of the main things that you should have in your homestead, along with a good fence, which we don't have a great fence all around. But it is one of the most important things, because you don't want to invest in sheep or goats, chickens, and all that, and then another like a predator comes and just takes them. That's a lot of time wasted there. So a livestock guardian dog is huge, and it's super important. However, I will say there are different kinds of livestock guardian dogs. Ricky has researched a little bit more than I have, but there's certain dogs that will actually like just bark to kind of get things out of your property to alert. But then there's other dogs that will actually go and hunt down the threat.
Even if it takes them off of your property line, which is depending on where you live and your neighbors and whatnot, that could be an issue with these two. We know our neighbor pretty well, well enough to have the understanding that he's told me that my dogs have gotten out before, and I've let him know, it's like, yeah, you know, once we work on the fence that we share together, I want to try and mitigate those opportunities for them to get out. But we did hear coyotes a couple of weeks ago, and he opened fire on a couple of them. He said there's probably like 10 to 12, so it's definitely a pack back there. And I let him know that, hey, just if it makes you feel any better, I know my dogs get out and get on your side, but they've chased off a couple things over on your side, and that seemed to make him feel a little bit better, knowing that because we're so close, that's literally the property line right there. They're also looking out for what's going on his side, and that will come to a halt once we fix our fence. But I've heard that Anatolians, and I've looked into, some minor research, Anatolians will actually seek out whatever it is that they want to get a hold of, and they'll take care of it. With Pyrenees, they're kind of more reserved. They won't go out of their way to try and leave the property to figure out what's going on. As long as they know their property lines and they patrol them, and they know where to stop, and they know when a threat is actually a threat, then yeah, they'll adjust. But yes, they don't take off too much to go figure out. And they're, curiosity, I don't want curiosity to be the reason they get killed, because let's say just one of them takes off and goes into the back with a whole pack of coyotes. That's going to be a problem. But they do kind of work together as a pack, at least at night. Once one of them barks and takes off to figure out what's going on in the property line, then they all tend to go as one. And then we have a pit bull. He's back there. He's lazy. He's like the house sitter. He ain't getting into too much action, but he'll bark a lot.
Yes, so during the day, they pretty much relax. They play a lot.
They sleep a lot.
They do sleep a lot, but they're trying to get all that rest, because at night they're extremely alert. And this is something that we didn't teach them. It's just their instinct. And just because our dogs have an instinct doesn't mean that if you go anywhere, every dog is gonna have an instinct. Try to find dogs that come from like a working homestead, because you know that those people are leaving the dogs with the animals and around the animals. We personally, we probably should have done this, but we don't put our dogs in separate paddocks with our livestock. We don't have a ton of livestock. We only have 2 sheep and 2 goats. So I think that's why we decided not to. And they do just roam almost the whole property. They don't get all the way down to the first pasture, but they do roam our house area and the second pasture. But if you do have a lot of livestock, you might want to look into putting them in the paddocks, like 1 dog per paddocks. That's what a lot of homesteaders or farmers end up doing.
Don't go buy 1 guardian dog for every animal you own, because you got to feed them. So that's another thing to be mindful of. We had a bunch of dogs, not including these 2, and then once one of them came to pass, and then we have another smaller dog in the house, we realized, okay, we don't always need this many dogs, because right now we don't have a whole lot to maintain as far as animal to dog ratio. But if you end up in your herd and you get more, with cows we're not really worried about, with goats and smaller animals like the sheep, we definitely want to have one dog to be able to take care of a whole paddock. If we had multiple paddocks and multiple, let's say if we had 10 to 15 sheep, I think I would want to have 1 to 2 at a minimum guardian dogs to be with them at all times. But yeah, whatever works for you. Always consider that you always have to feed them, and it's additional cost. But
yes, so overall, livestock guardian dogs are amazing. They have helped us out a lot. We didn't think we needed them because we had 2 other dogs previously that we got about 10 years ago. But I am so grateful that Keisha actually convinced me to get our first guardian dog. When we bought the sheep, she's like, you need them to protect them. So we are very grateful for that, because she does protect them. And then we ended up getting Ella because we just didn't want Penny to be doing all the work, because a lot of it falls on them and they get stressed out too, and they need breaks as well. But yeah, overall, make sure if you're looking for one, make sure that you do your research, find out what you want in your guardian dog. Do you want them to chase off animals? Do you want them to actually go find the threat? Or yeah, there's a lot of them. And then after that, make sure you research how much they eat, and because they eat a lot, they do eat a ton. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yes, and then make sure your fence is good, and just keep in mind that you might have to train them to stay inside your fence line, because Great Pyrenees are like natural climbers and diggers, and they love getting out.
They're curious.
They are
but
very
understand
curious.
that just because you have a good fence doesn't mean you don't need a dog. Just because you have a good dog doesn't mean you don't have to have a fence.
Yes.
Everything works together. It's not just the dog that keeps everybody safe. If you have a good fence, which we don't, but it's held up so far, all of these play a factor in how safe your homestead is. And you could have the best fence and the best dog, things will happen, but the more you do to mitigate those opportunities from happening, the better.
Well, that's it for today's video. Super short, but I really wanted to cover this topic because we love our guardian dogs. We love all our dogs and our livestock, so we want to make sure they stay safe. Let me know in the comments what livestock guardian dog you have, how you train them, and all that. All right, bye.